Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today we are talking about the top reasons why I love living here in the Baltimore area. I was not born and raised here. My wife was. I grew up in Southern California, a place a little different than this. So I'm going to give you my take on, kind of why I love it here, why it's been a good move for us, why we're raising our family here. We have one 18-month-old, we've got another one on the way, and why we're calling Baltimore our home. So let's get started right now. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Living in Maryland channel, where we talk about all things living here in the great state of Maryland. So if that's the kind of information you're looking for, you are definitely in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you are made aware of the new videos that we do here each and every week, talking about all things living here in Maryland. And if you are thinking about moving here to Maryland, if you're wondering whether purchasing a home is the right decision for you and your family, we absolutely love answering any questions that you have about moving here to the area. However you feel most comfortable reaching out, whether that's by phone, text message, or email, please feel free to reach out anytime. We absolutely love helping out in any way possible. Days, nights, and weekends, we've got your back when moving here to the great state of Maryland. So as I mentioned, I grew up in Southern California. I grew up in a place called the South Bay. It's an area within LA County. And the thing about Southern California and LA in general is it's just so massive. So for me, as a transplant here in the Baltimore metro area, one of the things that I love is that it's kind of a smaller feel. So you've got, Baltimore City is about 600,000 people just in the city. Baltimore Metro is about 2.8 million people. So you definitely have, a good size there in the metro area, depending on what you're looking for. But I grew up in the suburbs. I'm definitely, a suburbs guy. But for us growing up in, general LA County, for us to get into the city and do kind of city things, it was just such a drive. It was definitely an hour or so. There was always traffic. So we kind of really just stuck to where we were. We didn't really get to experience any of that city life and kind of do those sorts of things. So one of the things that I love about living here is just that the city is so much more accessible. Speaking about Baltimore City. So we live in Ellicott City. It's in Howard County. It's just one county removed from Baltimore County. But it's definitely part of the Baltimore Metro. So we definitely have that Baltimore vibe here. And getting into the city, into the inner harbor from our home is about 20 to 25 minutes flat. And outside of rush hour, there's really not a whole lot of traffic. So getting into the city, doing city things is very easy and very accessible for us. And that's one of the things that I love, because I didn't really have that growing up. We kind of stayed away from the city. It was just too much of a hassle dealing with traffic and dealing with the commute. And Baltimore is really a smaller city. And that's kind of one of the things I like about it too, is that it just makes it to where it's walkable. It's something that you can see a lot of things and just, by foot. So when you get into the inner harbor, you can park and see a lot of different things on foot. So on the south side, you've got M&T Stadium, you've got Camden Yards, and then as you kind of move north through the inner harbor, you've got things like the aquarium, you've got Power Plant Live, you've got a ton of different restaurants and options for eating and entertainment. So this is just kind of definitely one of the things that I like about it. And then as you continue to move through the inner harbor, you hit areas like Fells Point. You've got Little Italy there with amazing food there in that area. And then you've got Canton, which is a really popular area. A lot of young professionals, a lot more restaurants, breweries, and things like that. So just a lot to do within the city. And you can do a lot of it by foot. It's a small area. You don't have to drive a whole lot. So for me, coming from such a different type of city, LA being so massive, you've got to drive everywhere. It's so big and everything's so spread apart. This is definitely one of the things that I like about Baltimore. Another thing I love about the city is the architecture and the style of the home. So this is something that, is definitely different from where I grew up. It's such an older city. So there's so much more history to it. And the row homes are really cool too. So especially in those certain areas around the city, around Inner Harbor, there's a lot of cool housing, especially for young people who are down there. And Baltimore City also semi-recently has come out with a CHAP tax credit program that's incentivizing contractors to go out there and renovate distressed homes, and it's really encouraging home ownership throughout the city. And it's definitely really cool to see what these contractors are doing with some of these properties. It's absolutely beautiful. So what happens is They go in there, they've got to do certain criteria, meet certain criteria when they're going in there and renovating a property. But then what it does is for 10 years, it basically cuts the property tax bill in half on these properties. So the property tax rate in Baltimore City is pretty high. It's substantially higher than any parts of the county throughout Maryland. So in Baltimore City, it's roughly a little over 2%. So on a $300,000 home, you could have a $6,500, maybe a $7,000 property tax bill. But when you purchase a property that has this tax credit, it's basically cuts it in half down to $3,000 to $3,500 for 10 years, and it's fully transferable. So if you sell the home, you can pass it on to the buyer. So this is something that's really been good for the city, and you're seeing a lot of homes and row homes being revitalized and having those updates, and it's just a really cool thing to see. So if you're definitely interested in looking in the city, maybe living in the city, that's something that maybe you can look into, because there's a lot of that stuff happening right now. The second thing that we absolutely love about living here in the Baltimore metro area is going to be the breweries, and we absolutely love trying new ones, and there's a ton throughout Baltimore City and the Baltimore County area. So this is something that we would definitely recommend that you check out. A couple of our favorites. First is going to be Heavy Seas Brewery. This is in Baltimore County. It's in the Arbutus area, Halethorpe area, along the Beltway 695. And this is just a place that we find ourselves going to time and time again, just because we absolutely love the beer. They've got really good food trucks that come. They've got a little game room back there where you can kind of hang out and spend a night. So it's definitely a cool time, a fun experience. And then the second one is going to be the Guinness factory that they brought to the Elkridge area, so along Route 1. So this is an area, especially now with a kid, that's really family friendly. They've got a ton of outdoor space. They've usually got some games, cornhole and Jenga and stuff like that. So this is another place that we definitely really enjoy going to. So those are definitely the top two that we would recommend. And there's also a ton of others that you can check out. So that's something that we would definitely recommend that you look into. And then when it comes to beer here in the Baltimore area, you definitely have to try and keep some Natty Boh in your fridge. It's something that's super, super Baltimore. So it was first brewed in 1885, and 90% of its sales here today happen in Baltimore. So it's definitely something that's super Baltimore and that you got to try. It's a light beer. It's like a Bud Light or something like that. But it's super Baltimore. A lot of Baltimore pride, and you'll see a lot of that if you're in the city. Number 3 is going to be the sports teams and the sports pride. So this is something that I wasn't used to growing up, just because I don't know, LA is so big. There's so many different people from so many different areas of the country and the world. You just really didn't, get that feeling. But here it's all Ravens, it's all O's, and it's something that's really cool to me. So when I first moved here and got, going selling homes, my boss at the time, he gave us Ravens tickets because they were season ticket holders, and that was quite the experience. That was our first NFL game. I took my wife with me, and the fans were really into it. They were, constantly yelling at the other team, at the refs. So it was crazy. It was really fun, getting your $10 beers at M&T Stadium, having your crab pretzels and stuff like that. It was just a blast. So, every Sunday during the season, you just see a ton of people with their Raven shirts on, and baseball season is always big around here too. So that's just something that's really fun. Everybody talks about it. Everybody knows what's going on with the season and with the team. So that's something that's really cool. For me, I grew up as a Lakers fan. We didn't have NFL teams when I was growing up because the Rams had left LA to St. Louis, which bummed my dad out for a while. So now he's super stoked because they're back and they just won the Super Bowl. But anyways, LA now they've got 2 teams. So, I don't know, they're all over the place. So here in Baltimore, it's a smaller area. So many people are so into it. So it's just kind of that thing that brings a lot of people together. So that's something that we really enjoy here about the area too. All right, number 4 is going to be the nature, just all the trees, all the woods, how green everything is. I don't know, for me as a Southern California boy, so much of outside of the beach area, once you get into, anything east of that, it's desert, it's hot. I mean, there's not much to see. So For me coming here, that was really cool, you know, just to kind of see all that, all the state parks, all the opportunities to get out and hike and all the trails that there are here. It's something that we love, that we absolutely try to do as often as possible. So we're always, you know, exploring and finding new trails. We're lucky enough to have Patapsco State Park kind of in our backyard. So we're always finding new trails there and going exploring down to the river and doing stuff like that. So that's something that we love, something for me that I didn't get as much exposure to and have as much growing up, just given, you know, that I was in Southern California. You had to drive so far to everywhere. So for, you know, for me, that's something that we love. We absolutely love getting out there and doing as much of that as possible. So that's something I would definitely encourage you to do as well. All right, and last but not least is gonna be exposure to all 4 seasons. So this is something that I love too. And again, it's kind of all experience based on where you come from. But for me, I mean, it was just kind of, you know, so much of the same weather over and over and over again. And I mean, I guess it's tough to complain about, you know, 75 and sunny most of the year. But also that gets, I guess, in a sense, a little old from time to time. So for me, it's really cool getting to have exposure to all 4 seasons, actually having a fall and a spring, which by far are my favorite, where it's just, it's not extreme. It's just kind of right there in the middle. I love those 55 to 60 degree days where the sun is out. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. So those are times of the year that I love. Seeing the leaves change and, you know, getting out in nature and seeing that kind of stuff is awesome. So one of the biggest questions that I always get is, how bad are the winters? I mean, it's, you know, we're lucky here in Maryland. It's pretty mild. It's not too bad. So we've been here about 7 years now. We moved here in June. That very next January, we got a 3.5-foot snowstorm, which was crazy. So I was like, almost like expecting that. Each year after. We haven't had one near that bad since. So on average, we're having a handful of snowfalls each year, but a lot of times those are an inch or 2 or less, and that snow has melted within 24 hours because in Maryland, especially central Maryland, it just does not stay cold long enough. So a lot of times our days in the winter are reaching, you know, well into the 40s. So a lot of times that snow that does fall, it just doesn't stick around long enough. So more times than not too, when school is canceled, it's just because maybe those temperatures dropped at night and maybe we had some rain. So you're dealing with a little bit of, you know, freezing rain and stuff like that, and you'll see schools canceled because of that, but it's rarely because there's a foot of snow on the ground. So when it comes to winter, it's pretty mild. But fall and spring are absolutely beautiful here. Maryland is a beautiful state. So that's something that I absolutely love, especially given from where I came from. All right, everyone, thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something new. If there's ever anything I can do to assist, please feel free to reach out, and we'll see you at the next video.